despite it being almost calm down there, you see a bit of grass movement up here, as is usual. Come to the top of the ridge line when it's like this. Nice wee bit to step over there. Come to the top of the ridge line, and as is not uncommon, a wee bit more breeze. So heading along to the normal bit we drive up to when the 4x4 is on the road, and see whether it's worth flying and staying up here or flying down and then along to fly the bit above Waterstone Creek and just spend the day bagging a few different sites, hike and fly. Yeah, it feels like a lot more breeze up here. The broom just moving a bit, gorse only very slightly, but the broom's certainly moving. So it's a great top area here. You get those yellow flowered, was it ragwort or something, bad for the cattle. So over the years I've been trying to clear it as much as possible. Obviously it's not so good for launching on either. Oh, lovely. Main takeoff down that way, and alternative ones off to the side, and it will also take round for the northwest. Right, turbine's still turning slowly, much more northerly. Get the gear out. That'll do. Right, just finish uploading pictures and location, so if anybody else is coming out, load them onto Twitter and get ready to launch. A good example of the problems you can have with very cold air on a hilltop, and there's a wood just there giving more shelter. So I hadn't particularly tidied out the wing, just a half decent way out. Bringing it up holds it stalled, but with a good shape. So it's about 70% full of air. Newton's third, equal and opposite force. The underside's concave, and as it pauses, got very little airspeed at all. Not really moving up, not even moving down. Just let it settle gently, and the air doesn't rush out because the leading edge is fully closed. The cell openings are on the underside. So as it settles down, the air's actually caught and bounced back. It's trapped. Same way as the baffles on a tuned exhaust on a two-stroke. The early two-strokes, when they start using tuned exhaust, designed to keep the back pressure. Works in a very similar way. It traps the air in it. Then you've got a wing that's very good shape, slides up, and as it goes up it's got a decent amount of airspeed. Even though my ground speed's very low. Whoops. Phone. Hi Victor! Yeah, so Victor can't come out, he's got a pal across from France, so they're just going downtown. Anyway, the air's trapped in the wing, settles down, at which point, before it's finished settling down, as it touches, but before it's finished settling, you just very, very gently with the harness, load the wing up slightly, tiny touch of ease, and it bounces. It's just like trying to get the ball to bounce. Your timing's perfect. If it's not, it doesn't work so well. But when you get the timing perfect, it just slides up, and you're not running. There's absolutely no need to run committed launch. That is why there's so many accidents, because of the incompetence of the instructors that cannot understand some very basic physics. As the wing is sliding up, if anything, the pilot's going back uphill, and as the wing comes overhead and then its flight line, as it flies up, as its flight line then starts to match the slope, that's the point the pilot matches the speed of the wing, staying fractionally behind it. You're loading the wing, but you're staying behind it, because in flight it's the wing that brings you forwards, and launch off with no surge and dive. Now when you consider that round about 40% of all paragliding accidents, including, oh, he was the most experienced tandem instructor in the States, well, he's dead since his student's dead. This sort of incompetent launch, the Dutch chap, clearly easy conditions, they could have reverse launched, run, 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 40 seconds later, guy on his birthday flight, he's dead in Austria. If these guys learn some basic physics, almost all these accidents just suddenly disappear. You can cut the accident rate by 40% by correcting the basic core errors that they teach. It's incompetent instruction mainly that causes accidents, not so-called pilot error. You cause the accidents by the theory, the practice, the procedures they teach, and in the UK you also are causing accidents by the lack of decent MET training. 13 years, never yet had a BHPA trained pilot that's been properly trained in MET. Most of them have never heard of 214s, 215s, don't have a clue about TAFs, METARs, etc. They also have very little airtime. Vast majority of people coming to me, they may have been training for a couple of years, they've done their CP possibly, or uncompleted as in the case of one of my friends, training for 2 years. So it's not just EP pilots, this is pilots that either have or are finished, almost finished their CPs, and they've been training for a couple of years, and in the case of one guy I know, 40 minutes airtime. Now equivalent prices nowadays, it's 1,300 quid. I was talking to a guy down in Wales with a good attitude. I disagree with what he teaches, he's a BHP instructor, but the guy had a good attitude, and he at least has his students on about 5 hours by the time they finish their rating. I've had students that in the first 3 months are on over 50 hours flying, including 2-hour flights, 4,000 feet up thermally, some serious aviation training, and they've had a lot of MET training as well. So they can judge the conditions for themselves. They don't have to rely on guys like Dave Thompson, who's good at the MET. Okay, now Dave said we've got to significantly change what we do in Skywings in December 2009. But it's the coaches, it's the instructors that are keeping things the same. They're the guys that are ultimately responsible for the accidents, injuries and deaths. Until these guys change and stop teaching the nonsense they're teaching, it doesn't matter how good his MET knowledge is, they're still reinforcing all the things the BHPA do that causes the accidents. Remove the core errors and you start to change the sport, you start to make it safe aviation. Anyway, nice slide off, no surge, no dive, landed about 20 feet down from the takeoff point, just round the side, and then a short walk back up. Next one is a top to bottom flight intended. Hopefully if I can clear the power lines, you can't always from here, hopefully if I can clear the power lines, fly all the way down to the foreshore, but wait and see how that goes. Filming the flight, hike back along to the car, and then heading to another couple of sites. Okay, now just pop the wing up to tidy it out, and it feels like it's swung round at the moment. We've got a couple of knots flowing coming in this way from northwest. Haven't seen a change at the wind turbines yet. So I run tactile visual audio checks. Camera's just hanging on the strap. Now leading edge folded over. Check the airspace, acquire the A's but don't use them. This is going to be the harness, and just to pop it out. Now I can use a touch of A's and bounce. There, and I'm going back up slope. Okay, recheck the airspace, harness check, turn, wing warp, settle, recheck the airspace, there's the bounce, up it goes. Now the pilot slowly starts picking up speed to match the aircraft. You're not pushing ahead. Long strides, hardly touching the ground, just gently, gently, gently into launching. Now it's highly unlikely so I need to get a lot of lift to get over. Like this, just go round to the right, go parallel. Now you could get a katabatic flow coming down, so you certainly don't want to risk arriving next to power lines with the wind blowing you down slow. Turning round so that if the wing drops towards them they're well clear. and over. And clearly you normally recover that, but when you're holding the camera in right brake, you've got no options. Now, often you'll clear these with about 3 times the height of the pole, and then you can glide all the way down. But there was no airflow coming up to speak of there, and certainly no lift in the flight. But it just leaves a short walk down to left or right. Always set up for the way that suits you. Right-handed, left-handed pilots often got to be going a different way around, but make sure when you do the landing you then duck round the correct way for you, just in case you take off at the top suddenly without thinking about, oh, rush to get off. You want to make everything as familiar as possible. Now, because the wing was allowed to go over, it's nose down. Sand, snow, anything like that, you do not want to pull it. You're going to scoop in muck into the leading edge. So just take the gather the lines, walk round past the trailing edge, over, and chuck the gloves down here, just put them slightly clear, and then just gently roll, pull over there, and that should just lift the leading edge off the ground, rolling it clear. And there's a good chance you don't have any snow, or in the case of beaches, sand in the glider. Just coming back round, centre leading edge, and as you do the layout, pulling it along, you can just check for anything and scoop them out. So, disconnecting. This video is going to be a lot of talk, discussion about sights, just nice scenery. I'm only 30 seconds flying, but sometimes that's the way it goes. So, straight leading edge, and you'll see the sails start to flatten out. Reach again, checking for any line overs, and leave the wing tips in. Just tidy it out a wee bit. You've got nice, fairly flat panels. Lines aren't too bad. You can either go along and scoop them in, or go back to leading edge, checking again. Now, normally use 2 hands, so you don't have to keep bending down, but again, camera's in one hand, gently flattening out, and then the wingtip will just stay in a second. Now, you scoop along ahead of you, particularly if it's in the dark. Sorry about the camera swinging about. And that way you're very unlikely to catch any lines on your toes. If you've got somebody assisting you that's not a pilot or not particularly familiar with flying, get them to do the leading edge if they're helping you. Never get them to on the trailing edge. Far bigger risk of damage late evening of snagging a line and pulling it out. And by lifting and scooping, if there's no breeze, you save yourself all the effort of having to constantly bend down. And get the last bit. Check the airspace anytime you're lifting the glider so it may catch wind. And then from there, just scooping the air in. And it's folded. And same on this side, normally with the other hand. Folded. Gravity squashing that down. And flick. Recheck and flick, and then last one, just gentle fold in and pressing from the trailing edge, let the air out. Same sort of thing for the other side. Matter of a few seconds, you've got a tidy wing. Got a whole load of different ways to teach for folding these up when it's very windy. All designed to keep the pilot stressed down, keep the mental outlook nice and sharp, ready for the next flight, and keep the wing in control, particularly if there are other pilots still trying to come in and land, because it's getting a bit top end on the wind. Right.